Okay, yeah. So I was like this jigsaw puzzle, and it was like with women, I had kind of put it together all wrong over the years, like my stories and the way that I thought my interactions with women should go, and you guys kind of broke that down, and I had to start from scratch, which I'd then come to learn that like when you really start to relearn something in a new, I guess, more correct way, it's a really good thing when you have no idea what the fuck you're doing.
So welcome to this episode of Becoming Famous. Today we're sitting with Jameson.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
So Jameson is a former client. He went through the program, 2 years ago?
So I did intro about 2 years ago. And then I did the 3-month a little bit after that ended in August of last year. Now, I guess it's been like a year and a half since I've done that.
So we did our intro program and our 3-month program. And Jameson's an amazing student in that at the end of the 3-month program, he really took off. I mean, I was really impressed with the amount of women that were just getting attracted to him everywhere he went, his spontaneous nature, his wit. He had an amazing wit. I know he loved those tattooed girls, so there was lots of them in his life.
All true.
Yes, and he's proceeded since then to continue applying a lot of the principles and advancing the principles and working on himself to really change his life on an emotional level, happiness, his financial level, and even more so on the way he relates to women. He's gone through this journey, this complete journey from beginning to end, where you start out with no women, then getting women, then really loving the validation of women to the point where you don't even need the validation anymore. You just love yourself. And that's what the ultimate goal is about. So we're going to talk to him about that journey today and what that looks like. And so can you go all the way back to the beginning? How did all this get started? How'd you end up here at Fearless?
Yeah, I moved here. I moved out to LA from New York a little over 2 years ago. It was, I guess it was February of 2015. And I'm a professional poker player. That's why I moved out here. And also for life change, my brother's out here and weather and everything. And everything was going great with poker. But for whatever reason that I couldn't put my finger on, I wasn't really meeting women. And I've never really had much of a problem with it, but I knew for me that it was something that seemed to be like a problem because I'd been here for like 3-4 months, and I was like, I haven't really met anyone, like what's going on? And then I came across your ad.
Back when we were doing the Facebook ad.
Yeah, the Facebook ad, and I came in here for a gathering, and I was like, this is definitely something I need to do. So I did it, I did the intro, and had a ton of anxiety. It was kind of like, I was this puzzle.
The intro is what we call the experience, just so you guys know.
Okay, yeah. So I was like this jigsaw puzzle, and it was like with women, I had kind of put it together all wrong over the years, like my stories and the way that I thought my interactions with women should go, and you guys kind of broke that down, and I had to start from scratch, which I'd then come to learn that like when you really start to relearn something in a new, I guess, more correct way, it's a really good thing when you have no idea what the fuck you're doing.
I would agree with that totally.
And that's kind of what I felt like when I was out at the bars with you guys for the intro workshop. But
you didn't have a lot of that pickup bullshit in your head. I hate calling it that, but I mean the old school, say this canned line, say this canned routine, and undoing all that is a lot of work sometimes, and you didn't have all that in your head.
Yeah, I definitely read that stuff though.
Okay.
And so I definitely had tried it in college a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, my growth from there was pretty fast, and really just was kind of obsessed with it for a while, and just really getting better. And that's why I did the 3-month, and just, it was the women part that was awesome, but just seeing my own transformation was incredible, and just seeing the new outlook that I had on life and how I approached life was really awesome. And that in turn, I guess, snowballed the success I had with women. So I enjoyed that for quite a bit. I'd say like for the rest of that year, I really enjoyed, meeting tons of women. And it got to a point, I would have like, I don't know, like just 8 to 10 women in my phone, just like constantly. But
It's a rough life.
yeah, it was tough. It was a lot of work. And
It does take up a lot of your time.
It does. And I think that's where my next transition came.
Really quick, can you go back? You had said in the beginning that you had all these stories about how your interactions with women should go. And we helped you to rearrange that, is kind of, I think, the words used or something similar. Can you share a little bit about those stories? So for the guys out there that for guys out there that are where you were when you started, I want you to kind of put that out there a little bit so they can kind of understand.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, one of my main things that we worked on in the intro workshop in the 3-month was opening my heart. And I think that for me,
this sounds really new age and woo-woo, but trust me, it works.
But it was, not so much not so much new age of it, but just my vulnerability wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because I'd been through a couple rough relationships. I had been hurt, and I'd also had hurt people. And I think that caused me to wall off. Yeah. And so emotionally, I wasn't connecting with women. Like, sure, I had like the wit and, I consider myself a pretty good looking guy, but just emotionally, I wasn't there. Yeah. And so that was the process for me, was just opening my heart and just understanding that it's okay to be emotionally connected to a woman, regardless of how serious it is or what you're putting on the table or what you're putting at risk in terms of getting hurt or hurting someone.
I think what you said is super important, and I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on, because a lot of guys out there, they have actual wit, and then they still can't get laid, they can't get a girl, they can't get a date. A lot of them end up being the girl's friend at best. Can you elaborate a little different on what the difference is between just having wit and actually being attracted to a woman, whether with or without the wit? What's the difference?
I would say, sometimes wit can come from a place of thought, or like getting up in your head a little bit, or just, you can go back to like the lines, I guess. But the one thing, I'm not sure if this will answer your question, but it's kind of like this harmony between that emotional connection, but also the sexual tension of it all.
Yeah.
And I think it, for me, through that experience, it was learning to dance with that. And
so the wit was lacking the emotional connection.
Yes, and the wit was like a front for that, to not, to kind of like keep myself at a distance from an emotional standpoint, or just.
And so that begs the next question. Can you go a little deeper in your words, what's an emotional connection? For a guy out there, imagine you're a guy out there that's trying to get this, and you're like, shit, I can be witty, but I still don't get girls. So what is this emotional connection thing?
It's feeling the woman. It's being able to get into your body and be in that moment with her and understand how she's feeling. And also understand that, the words that come out of her mouth don't necessarily mean exactly or literally what is being said.
Super true, and true of everybody, really.
And you talk about a lot of the just like the cues or the subtleties that women give off, whether it be body language or the way they're reacting towards you, or just in general. I think for me, once I worked internally, once I went inside and worked on myself to be able to open myself up more, I felt that a lot more. Yeah. And I felt that connection. And in turn, trust is built between you and a woman. And this works obviously with anybody, any type of like human interaction. But that's when I really started to see a huge shift, is when I started opening up myself. I started feeling the woman more on a deeper level. And and the connection was so much more than just two strangers talking at a bar or something. It just kind of escalated really quickly.
So you would say this emotional vulnerability was the big key for you?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there was,
Well, that's a huge piece. That's where most men are missing, actually, is the ability to feel their own emotions, relate to their own emotions, and then convey those emotions back to the lady and feel back and forth, and actually feel her emotions at the same time. It's a lot to manage. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. You're feeling your emotions, not taking them personal, not making them mean anything. Then you're feeling her emotions, not making them personal, not making them mean anything, and just letting them be what they are, and then sharing emotions back and forth when guys think it's words.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the things that stop men from accomplishing this is all of their internal shit that's going on. You know, like whether it be the need for validation or the fear of rejection or being seen. You know, like that's a huge thing too that I kind of went through, and I would end up going out to bars, and even in the workshop, like I went out to the bungalow like a half hour before everybody got there, just so I could stand there by myself and feel that, you know, kind of embarrassment, and just the need to like be around and talking to people. And like that was like a huge thing. And like all these things and all these stories and all these emotional blockages that we have inside us prevent us from truly connecting with a woman a lot
What I
more.
think you just said there, I think a lot of people will gloss over, and it's so important. I didn't even know you did that. And you go to the bar a half hour early to feel all your fear, to feel your emotions, your insecurity, your nervousness. And I'm not assuming just feel it, but to start to process it out of your body.
Yeah, and I think at that point I didn't realize I was processing it. Like I didn't fully understand like what this was about.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, definitely that's what I did. And I've done it, you know, since then a couple of times. But
now for a guy that's in a lot of fear, he might go to the bar, get into that fear, and get stuck for the whole night, not be able to do anything. So I think you did it in a brilliant way, because you did it a half hour before we got there, and then we got there and got you moving. Mm-hmm. So it was a way for you to process the information. So yeah.
And to that point, you know, when you talk about like, oh, guys can go there with just tons of fear and not really accomplish anything. But for me, in a lot of those moments, I've, you know, said to myself over and over again, I'm like if I go out to a bar on my own and I'm feeling the anxiety of it, I'm just like, well, whatever I do at this bar is fine, and it's okay. If that means me freaking out and standing in the corner or like running away after 5 minutes, okay. Like that's okay. If it means me not talking to a girl or completely blowing up a conversation, that's fine. But I'm just like, I'm there and it's cool. And what's amazing is once you accept that, like a lot of good things happen. Yeah. And you accomplish a lot more than you think you would have.
Yeah, I always think about it might have been your first weekend, and there was a girl you knew and you never realized she liked you.
Yeah.
And then something happened that night.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was this girl I was hanging out with a little bit. She was, you know, a friend of a friend or whatever. And I thought she was super cute and like, definitely like the kind of girl I liked. But we never we never hooked up or anything. And then I saw her at the bar, and this was like after like a month or two of, you know, seeing her and stuff. And I forget, it was something you said to me.
I think I just told you, you told me the story, and I said, oh, she likes you, you just need to do X. And I remember I told you to do something specific.
You kind of just said like, more or less like, just go for it. It was like, really just be like.
Because you had described a conversation to me, and I remember in that conversation, I could tell she liked you, but you couldn't.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was something to the effect of just start moving in, getting closer and closer, and then if she doesn't, you know, she doesn't resist, kiss her or something like that. I can't remember.
Right, and that was the process of going back to the fear of rejection, not putting myself out there enough. And it was at that point, at that night, where I was just like, screw it, like, I'm just gonna go for it, like, who cares? Like, yeah, like this, I realized why I hadn't gone for it. And just all my internal shit that was going on that was holding me back. And sure enough, I went for it. And before you know it, we're just like making out in the corner for like a half hour or whatever. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of it for me, I think.
That's when some light bulbs go on. And you're sitting there going,
Yeah.
How many other girls have I passed up that possibly liked me?
Yeah, and there's definitely plenty.
Yeah.
Just because I was just like, no, I'm gonna pretend like I don't like her, because I'm gonna be that cool guy that like doesn't tell the girl that he thinks she's sexy, because who would want to put themselves out there like that? Like,
yeah.
You know, what if she says no? Like the embarrassment of it. Oh my God.
I think a lot of guys have a lot of that. And
For sure.
and they don't even know it. A lot of guys come to me and they say, no, that's not true. And then I go out and I see how they're pushing or walking away from a lot of girls who like them, and they don't even know it. They can't see it, and they swear to me up and down, this girl's rejecting me. And I look and she's not rejecting you.
Yeah.
You're taking it as rejection.
Yeah, and I think what I've noticed through, just my friends that I hang out with and just the guys I see out at bars now, it's like, it's really sad. Like, it's like an epidemic.
I hate to smile and laugh at that, but it's just, it's so sad. It's funny. And I hate to say that, but you're right.
And it's just like with a lot of my, some of my good friends too will see it. Like, I'll just be out at a bar with people and I'll say something to a girl that like no guy would ever think of saying, or just like they wouldn't even dare. And they're like embarrassed for me, but I'm not embarrassed at all. And I'm just like, they're just like, why the hell would you say that? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you crazy? Like she's gonna think you're a creep or something or blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, guys, like, this is how you interact with people. Like, I'm not like offending some girl and like I'm not like, I'm not like shouting slurs at her or something, but like, I'm just saying some of the sexual things that guys wouldn't dare saying to a girl they just met.
And who ends up with the girls and who doesn't.
Yeah. And I'm the one that ends up with the girls, and they're still sitting there like doing the same process over and over again.
Swearing your process isn't gonna work.
Right, or just being like, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, you might've got that one, but the next one.
Right.
Eventually this is gonna stop.
Yeah, or they're just like, oh, like, Jameson will just stick his dick in anything, or he'll just say anything to any woman. And I'm just like, part of that's true. The second part, but not the stick my dick in anything. But I don't know, like, just going through this process is just, it hurts to see it, because it just seems like it's like almost like 99% of the guys are like that.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I know, like, I felt that way before. And I've been that sad. I've been depressed in that way. I've gone home alone like a ton of times and felt like really shitty about myself. And I know that that's exactly what they're doing.
And I know there's guys that go to a bar, go out, get really depressed, don't tell their friends because they can't take action, leave, go home, like you said, get really depressed and even cry. And I know there's guys that cry themselves to sleep because they can't meet a girl. And I hate to say it, but I mean, I've been like that. And I've seen guys have to go through that. Some guys just numb themselves out and never say a word. But some guys are actually so frustrated they reach that point. I don't know. Did you ever reach that point?
Yeah, I think so. I think for the most part, it was like following my serious relationships a lot. Like, that happened a lot. A lot of crying, also a lot of numbing, whether it be, through drugs or whatever. And I see that a lot with guys too, is that they'll just, they'll go home after a night, or they'll get too drunk at the bar, which is, a huge flag for avoidance in itself. Or because they're, they don't want to deal with the fact they didn't bring home a girl, they'll go home and smoke weed or do whatever, or just like zone out in front of a TV just to like not process that. But what they realize they're doing is they're just holding themselves back.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of go through that rejection, and you have to go through that sadness. And that's what a lot of guys, especially fearless, don't realize, is that I went through all of that, or they look at like someone like Dave and they're just like, oh, like Dave is just this like dude that like never had to go through shit really. And he's just like this solid guy that gets girls and blah, blah, blah. But like, we all had to go through a ton of shit to get to where we are as men.
Yeah.
And
Dave may have been more natural with girls, but he's had other areas in his life that he's had to go through all this shit.
Sure.
And we talk about his fear of flying. Some people think, oh, what's the big deal with flying? For him, it was hell in the beginning. Now he's skydiving and base jumping, but in the beginning, he always takes things to the extreme. But
yeah. So that was my process. And I guess moving forward from that, after I had my fun with women and just getting like addicted to meeting them and stuff.
Now, can you talk about that? Because there is this phase where you go through addicted to meeting them, where you're craving more validation. When you first start getting women after years of not having them, it's like more and more and more. There's a sense of You ever? This is when I realized it was a problem for me. I was dating a lot of girls, and then I would have these nights where I'd be alone, and I'd be like, "Where can I get a girl?" Mm-hmm. And I would be like, "Who's available tonight?" And I realized this is a problem, and I knew I needed to do something about it. So, did you have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I had that not only with women, but later on as I let go of the women, then I would kind of I was using my friends a little bit as that sort of like, oh, I don't want to be alone, let me go hang out with them. But yeah, with women, it was, I was never, and I can see why this is pretty extreme for guys who had never, been with girls for like a number of years or whatever. That was never the case with me, but there was still plenty of validation that I got from that. Mm-hmm. And it was, sometimes it wasn't even like having to see them, but just like texting them. If I was like not doing anything one night, just to fire off a bunch of texts to a bunch of different women that I had hooked up with or potentially was going to hook up with.
I remember doing that.
Yeah, that was like a huge, it was also a form of avoidance for me, like I would just be laying in bed and like kind of lonely or whatever. And I would just start firing off texts to girls and they would respond. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I feel good now.
Yeah. And the point in the end, maybe in the beginning, as you work through this, that's great. But in the end, is to feel good whether you get the text back or not. Is to feel good even before you text. And yeah, it's not like you stop enjoying the women. They just add to a beautiful moment. So would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys, who start going through this process, who start getting numbers, then they go back into it being some sort of game.
Yeah.
Where they'll ask me, they're like, well, what should I say to her? What do I say here? Like, I need something like cool that's like funny or whatever, witty, like what do I say? And I'm just like, dude, you gotta like feel the conversation. Like, it's not just like some line that you can throw up that's just gonna make her clothes fall off or anything. And my one good friend right now, he said this, he's awesome. He's like one of my best friends here. And we were hanging out one night and I got this girl's number at a bar and she had a friend and we're back at our place. This was in like Big Bear or something. He's like, dude, he just looks at me. He's like, dude, there's a sequence of words and phrases that you can put together right now that'll allow us to go over there and have sex with them. I need you to figure that out. I just started laughing hysterically. I was like, that's kind of true. But at the same time, like you have to feel it,
Yeah.
And
the sequence is constantly changing from moment to moment based on emotion and feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought that was like the most like honest, like literal thing I've ever heard in terms of like texting girls. But yeah, I mean, and once you get better, and it all goes back to yourself. Like it all goes back to how you're working on yourself internally. And once you let go of all that stuff more and more, texting gets easier, feeling gets easier, interacting with women emotionally gets easier. It all just kind of like processes and I don't know, I guess reveals itself in a really beautiful way.
I think you said something really important because we don't talk enough about texting here. But a lot of people have a bunch of random texts set up in their phone. She says this and this. And I've always, and you just said it basically yourself. You said you got to feel the conversation. And somebody out there might go, well, how do you feel a conversation through written word? How do you feel a conversation? I mean, that's the person's not in front of you. You can't feel their emotions. Well, can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, we could go into like new age stuff with that, but it's just kind of like an energy. And I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm really in feeling and I'm not like, and I still do this sometimes too, where, if I meet a really hot girl, that kind of triggers me a little bit. Then my initial texting with her, or if you get a girl who, like one of those emo girls who doesn't really give off a lot, that can kind of trigger me back into my head where I'm starting to like analyze and like, what should I say? I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like, I know exactly what to say. Yeah. And not even exactly what to say, but with no attachment to the response or what's going to happen from that.
Yeah. So even if it went south, you'd be okay with it.
Yeah. And it's just you just feel kind of invincible with that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
If we were to take the new age off of it, the brain and the gut brain, which is the instinctual brain, the brain basically processes at 4 to 10 million bits of data per second. So it has all access to an insane amount of information that we consciously don't have.
Right.
And if you consciously are nervous thinking this girl doesn't like me, it's going to feed you all the reasons that she doesn't like you. And also it's going to feed you the exact text to get her to reject you. Mm-hmm. And if you really feel like she likes you and you feel like a likable guy, I'm a real attractive, likable guy, you believe in yourself, it's going to start feeding you all the things that feel good that are going to cause her to move in that direction. It's a supercomputer just telling you what to do. That's flow state.
You know, that's why you read all these books and articles about how you need to be delivering yourself positive thoughts. Like you are your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And Zan has a really cool
Zan Perion.
Yeah, Zan Perion has a really cool passage in The Alabaster Girl where he talks about how all these guys at the bar, like, they come up with reasons why they shouldn't go talk to the girl. They're like, oh, well, she's with that guy over there. It's probably her boyfriend. Oh, she doesn't really want to talk to me. Like, oh, she probably just wants to be hang out with her friends and all this stuff. And he says, why not like flip that? If you have the ability to create any reality that you want in any hypothetical situation, why wouldn't you make it the most positive and most beneficial to yourself? So saying like, yeah, like, of course that girl over there who's with her girlfriends wants to meet a guy like me, or wants a guy like me to come up and talk to her and seduce her and be playful and give her like the time, the night of her life or whatever. Like, of course. And, if that's not the case, then so be it. But why not give yourself that opportunity and that reality?
And that's the thing, all those romance novels that they read, women's porn, that whole romance section of the grocery store, that's what they're all written about.
Yeah.
That type of guy. So they're all dreaming of a guy to do that to them. Mm-hmm. Why can't it be you? And a lot of you got all these stories coming up right now. Rewrite the stories.
Yeah, and it's a whole process, like you can tell them what to do. Like you can tell them, oh, this girl wants this right now. But if you can write it all on paper and draw it out for them, but if they're, if they have their old stories come up and they have a lot of emotional stuff that's blocking them from doing that, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I had a friend this girl who recently just broke up with her boyfriend, and she told me she had broken up with him once and got back together with him because he was like super jealous. And I was telling her that like, that jealousy is not gonna go away because there's a lot of deeper core issues there. And he was actually jealous of me. For good reason, obviously. But he was jealous of me, and I said, and she was telling me this, and I was like, do you have to realize though that he's not jealous of me? Like, I'm not the problem, like he's the problem. And she then went to visit him, and she told me that, oh, he had this really deep conversation with his friend, and he said that he was gonna let me like hang out with you whenever I want now, and blah, blah, blah. And like, I really think we turned a corner. And I was like, no, you didn't. Like, because he didn't. He just had a conversation with a friend. Like, he didn't process anything. He had 1 hour-long conversation with a buddy about how he shouldn't be jealous. But I'm just like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just say to yourself, I'm not gonna be jealous. He has to address other issues that are going on with him, whether it be insecurities, lack of self-worth, just not being able to be with a woman of this quality who's gonna be hit on by a lot of men. So like a lot of different things that were going on, and I was like, this isn't gonna last. And then sure enough, literally like 2 days later, they broke up for good. But that's like what the whole thing that you teach is like, you can't just fake this stuff.
No, a lot of people try to.
Yeah.
That's the whole positive thinking thing we talk about, and it drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to repress all my current feelings and put the feelings I want on top of them. You're putting, as Robbie Kramer used to say, you're putting whipped cream on shit. And I think it was his grandfather. He used to say that. And the shit's going to eventually smell through, And I think that's super true. So let's dive in a little bit more. What was so you went through this stage where you were chasing a lot of validation. And then what happened next? Where did you go from there?
I think
you were getting a lot of women, and so you wanted more women.
And I think I think I don't know necessarily where the shift took place, but I started to look for something deeper. I was looking for relationships on a deeper level, and I know I came to you a bunch of times. I was like, I think I'm looking for a girlfriend now, and I'm definitely still in that process, I think. But for me, it was just kind of looking for something more than just
I think you were 50-50. Like you were looking for a girlfriend, but you were loving the validation. So,
yeah,
because that's what I could see. That's what I would see.
Okay.
I would see this guy who's like, okay, we need to have a girlfriend, but then look at that cute girl over there. Oh, but look at that one over there. And
watch me go pick up this girl.
Yeah. And so both were going on. There was a little battle.
Yeah. And so what happened is, once I got kind of tired of just all the sex, it was just so awful.
Did you hear that, guys?
Yeah, it was just terrible.
High quality problem.
Yeah, but as I really wanted more time to do other things, as I wanted more meaningful, deeper connections or relationships, then my focus kind of shifted, and through that, I had to let go of a lot of the validation. So it was very hard for me to let go of these girls. And what happened was, I realized that I needed to work on my self-love. And it was something that I kind of neglected through the process, or not necessarily neglected, but didn't really know too much about. But then once that started coming up, and once I was left alone a lot because I had cut these girls out of my life, that's when a lot of the deeper emotions started coming up for me. And I grew up, my childhood, my dad was very, it was like really tough love in terms of sports and competition and being successful, and it was just like, I had this self-speak of, being really hard on myself. And I looked at that as the way to grow and the way to be successful and to achieve a lot of different things. And it was only until I came through this process at Fearless that I realized that it should be the exact opposite way, and that was holding me back. But because of that, I really didn't love myself as much as I needed to. And so after dropping these women, that really, it was really exposed to me that that's what I need to work on. And I needed to really enjoy being by myself, taking myself out, not needing women or anyone else to validate me or to tell me how awesome I am or important I am. I needed to discover that for myself.
Yeah, that's a homework assignment I give a lot of clients, is to take a certain period of time and learn to take yourself on dates. But I only give it to them after they get good with women, because a lot of guys have spent a lot of time alone before they get good with women. And so they're like, well, that's no different than what I'm already doing. But once you can get women and you do that, it comes from a whole different place.
Sure.
And it causes a whole different, now it's by choice versus have to.
Yep.
And there's growth in that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that guys need to go through in terms of finding women and getting women and being around them, having them in their lives. It's just like it's like an upgraded level of self-love, or it's an upgraded problem. And I think that you're right. Like, you kind of do have to go through that process. Because for me, I don't think it would have the same effect if I did that, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But through doing that, what happened for me is, the way that I look at it is, like, my energy started shifting in a much more positive way too. The energy I give off, just like, people are just more attracted to me in general. They want to be around me more. And that's just because the way I see it and the way I've read about it too is, like, you can only love someone as much as you love yourself. And you can only give to the world what you're willing to give to yourself. And so once that area of my life grew, then I was able to kind of go back into the dating world and really be prepared to meet the woman that I want to be with, or meet the types of women that I want to surround myself with, that are on a much, or that are like much higher quality in terms of what I'm looking for. And
much more women that love themselves. Because what'll happen is, as you love yourself more, you're going to draw women that love themselves more.
Yeah.
And did you see that change as you went through this process?
Yeah. And that's the thing too I was talking about before, is that through this, I've learned to separate the two between, between sexual relationships and also just like friendships that are of high quality and really important to me. And I've slowly just started to have those high quality women in my life that I don't necessarily hook up with, that are just there as like really good friends, but are there to support me.
And this is something you've wanted by choice.
Yeah. And it's also something that I wouldn't have been able to do if I needed that validation, because I would have immediately tried to hook up with these women, or constantly tried to hook up with them because I needed to prove something to myself or to prove something to others that I could get this girl.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But now it's a situation where I don't have to do that, and I see these women who are like really independent and really successful and doing a bunch of different things. They're traveling the world, or they've lived in a bunch of different countries, or they love going to like festivals and doing all these things that I enjoy doing, and I'm able to experience that with them without the just like the tension of fucking or having that complicated relationship in there. It's I choose to make it like this because these women enrich my lives in a different way.
So you're saying, in a sense, you're choosing, instead of you having a bunch of friends that are women because you have no choice, you're choosing to make these women your friends by choice.
Yeah.
And there's a certain power in that. And then, and when you do it that way, there's a certain benefit in being their friend versus their lover. Like, I'm sure you still have plenty of women that are your lovers, but when you do it that way, there's a whole different energy. Because for a guy out there, I'm picturing him going, well, how is that cool? Maybe a guy who's a little more desperate. He's going, how is that good? I mean, if you can fuck him, why don't you fuck him? And I can see that guy behind sitting in front of his camera right now saying that.
Yeah.
And so, can you answer that question?
I would say I don't need it anymore. It's not like, yes, I love sex just as much as the next guy. But I'm able to kind of compartmentalize different things in my life now, in a way that makes my life, really incredible. And not to say like, even though I'm having less sex, like I don't really know how to describe it, but it's just like these girls will give something to me and to my life that is awesome, and it's really something that I can learn and grow from, and it doesn't have to be me fucking them. I'm not sure like how to explain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think once you go through the process, like guys realize that yes, the sex is great, but at the same time it does kind of fill a void in a way, or it can fill a void.
Well, I think what happens, and you might have to go through this process that he's gone through to understand this, or maybe you already get it, but you have to come to a place of realizing that sex isn't the end-all be-all. For a guy who's desperate and who hasn't had a lot of women, sex may seem like the end-all be-all of everything. And sex is a lot of fun. But there's so many, what really makes sex amazing is the energetic connection, the exchange of energy, the flow, the emotional connection, the depth that you exchange with another person. If you don't have any of that and you're having sex can get really old really quick too. And so when you can get that energy from women without even having sex with them, and there's a point at which, yeah, the sex is still great when you have it, but you're getting more of that connection all the time in general. So you don't need as much sex to feel fully connected.
Yeah, and I'll say also too, it's an abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset too. Because what happened a couple of weeks ago is I had plans I had met this girl at Big Bear snowboarding, and we had made plans. She lived in San Diego, and we had made plans to go to Mammoth. This was last week. And we had the trip all planned out. We were going to go get a room there and whatever. But at the same time, where I'm at with my poker career, like that's taking focus, and that's where my intent is, with money and success in that arena. And so for me, I was in a position where I had to cancel on her. You know, I could have easily gone and had a great time and we could have had wild sex for like 3 days, but I just kind of had to let go of those emotions of, you know, the horniness and just that validation too. And like, oh my God, this girl's like super, like, she's like really hot Filipino woman and turns me on like all different kinds of ways. But for me to kind of cancel that and let go of that and understand like where my purpose is in life right now, like that was such a powerful experience for me. And also an enlightening one that I was like, wow, like I'm capable of so much. Like, and I know that I'm able to kind of let go of this and still pursue my goals and not let anything get in the way of that. And what happened, which is really funny, is I also had to let go of like, oh, like I might not see this girl again. You know, she might be so pissed off that she's done with it and she doesn't want to see me and blah, blah, blah. But what happened is she came right back and she's like, you're intriguing in so many different ways. Like, I really want to just know so much more about you and blah, blah, blah. And like, just because I followed my purpose and like my truth, like that was my truth right now, like this is where I want to go. And I'm intent on doing this. And if that means putting our plans to the side, then that has to be it.
Well, that's another big secret is the guys have a hard time with is that women are very attracted to men that have a purpose greater than them. You know, if you make women your purpose, you're fucked. But if you have a purpose greater than women and greater than yourself, then women get very drawn to that guy.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, that's also how it shifted too for me is that I get the, you know, they're like, oh, like, you know, I'm so turned on by you and blah, blah, blah. But then they go into like the deeper levels of it. They're like, I'm so intrigued by you, like the things you talk about and the way that you told me. And like, you know, and I was really honest with her too. And that's a huge thing that Dave talks about is guys will try to manipulate situations with women just so they can get them in bed. Or just so they can kind of like see them again or whatever. But for me, that's a big thing too, is I had to be really honest with her. I was like, listen, like I've had a lot of anxiety over this trip. I've been really focused on poker and my career. And this is something like I shouldn't really be doing. And just for me, you know, I think you're a great girl and you know, super sexy and everything. And I hope to see you again. But I also have to kind of take that chance that I might not because I have to do this.
Yeah.
And she was like, when I talked to her on the phone about that, she was like completely blown. Like she was just speechless. She didn't even know what to say.
Well, those are powerful words. The words you chose said in a very powerful way.
And yeah, and you learn that once you move into that abundance mindset of, you know what, if this super hot girl, like if this is the only chance I have to see this super hot girl, there'll be another one.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but there will be, and it'll be fine, but I have to do this, and this is what's important to me. And I think that once the guys let go of a lot of that stuff, they'll see not only with women, but in life, like the answers kind of reveal themselves more, and you're just on a quicker path to wherever you want to go.
100%, I agree with you. And speaking of that, have you applied any of these principles to other areas of your life? And how are they affecting other areas of your life?
Yeah, I definitely think, you know, just in terms of, I mean, like I kind of said.
Well, you kind of talked about your poker career. And stuff,
right.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that in, you know, for sure in 1 second. But like, for me also, it was finding new friends. It was finding friends that were kind of on my wavelength and just the type of people I wanted to be. And it was funny because I was talking to Tony like back in the fall.
Tony being a model that works for Fearless.
She's awesome, and you know we're super close. And I was telling her, I was like, you know, like I'm just kind of looking for a new group of friends or somebody that's like, I just feel like the friends that I have right now just aren't fitting with where I'm at. And she was like, well, just kind of set that intention, you know. And like, sure enough, literally like it was like a month later, I met a group of people in the South Bay area who work with my brother at SpaceX, and they're like incredible people, and we instantly became super close. And I see them all the time now, and we're just doing everything together. Like we travel together, we go to festivals, we have all these plans. They're the type of people that just like spontaneously will plan trips to wherever. and we'll just go and we'll have a great time. And they're the type of people that I really relate with in terms of just making a shitty situation a fun one. You know, you could go to like an empty bar and we'll find a way to like have a great time. So I set that intention to apply it to that part of my life too. And it just kind of happened over the next month. And
Nice.
and I've been really close with them for 6 months now. In terms of poker, it's definitely been a slower process. But for me, it was, like I said at the beginning, like the jigsaw puzzle, like I had to fail a ton and really try to find the answers a ton without finding the answers until I hit rock bottom. Well, until I hit what I thought was rock bottom over and over and over again, until I finally made some realizations about how serious I was taking poker and how I kind of neglected it for different things, and that it was okay for me to focus on that and also have a balanced, happy, like fulfilling life on the outside of it, but continuously putting it first. And I think for me, there was, I had to get coaching, and it was like an ego. It's definitely an ego-driven thing and a pride thing that I think kept me from maybe seeing the light in that sense.
I imagine there's some pretty big egos in poker.
Yeah, and I think for me that was a big realization, and I had only recently discovered that over the last couple months. But since then, it's been awesome. And for me, it was resolving a lot of issues surrounding my relationship with money, my career in general, because it's not really, it's a very taboo type of poker's a very taboo type of career, and one that a lot of people either frown upon or just don't understand.
It's interesting. I've had a lot of poker players come through here too, and so to me now it seems very normal because I lived with a poker player. I had him as a roommate many years ago, and then having all the poker players come through here, it seems very normal to me. But I could see where somebody would say that.
Yeah, and so I had to go through a lot of things with my parents and my family, and
I remember you were very up and down though. If you had a losing day, depressed. If you had a winning day, high, losing, and so there was a sense of instability in your financial life.
Yeah, and what happened was I, my ego and just my self-pity would say that the roller coaster was the result of me just not catching enough breaks. And it wasn't me really taking an honest look at myself and how I was approaching it. And I needed to, and what happened is what I realized over the last couple months is I needed to evolve as a poker player. I needed to kind of double down on what I was doing and put in more hours, put in more work away from the table, really focus on it a lot more and really put it first, and understanding that balance between, living and partying and stuff and enjoying that time, but also like putting poker first. And I'd gone through a lot of processes. I'd gone through a lot of situations where I was like, oh, well, if I just kind of let go of poker and let go of money, then it'll come to me. If I just don't take it as seriously and I go out and enjoy my life and I'm just at peace with everything, then it's going to all work out. And it was true in theory, but at the same time, I still need to take action.
Well, that doesn't sound like you're in acceptance. It sounds like you were in almost resignation.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were calling it acceptance.
Yeah, it was making an excuse for, I think it was like making an excuse for the lack of success I was having.
See, there's 3 stages that people go through, and the first stage is inaction, depression, just kind of letting the world take you, like, go here, do this. Second stage is take a lot of action, where you're out there, I'm going to make it happen, I'm going to force it to happen. Third stage is where you go back to kind of a place of inaction where you release all the attachments, but then what happens is your body naturally goes into action as a natural outcropping of the sense of freedom, like go do this, learn more of that, take that action. And the action is the reward for being in a very healthy state in relation to what you want to do. Mm-hmm. The action is this beautiful, fun thing you get to do. and it feels fun, it feels interesting, it feels fascinating. So that's when you're truly released, the action is the natural outcropping, working more if that's what you need to do, learning more if that's what you need to do. In that first stage, though, action, you kind of throw it aside, it's avoidance.
Yeah, and to that point, I think what happened is once I hit rock bottom with my relationship to money, because I always had this like insane fear of going broke, because I always looked at my success as a poker player validated by the money I make or the money I have. And once I finally got to the root of that, and it took me a while, like, I mean, relatively speaking, right? Like, we'll say like a year and a half, 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, 2 years to get to the point where you take off and you do really well is not bad.
Yeah, and I think what happened is once I was able to release on those money issues and understand that everything's going to be okay. I always have people that are going to support me. I'm not going to be homeless. Regardless of the debt that I have, like, I'll figure it out. That type of mentality. Then poker turned into me going to play poker and being excited because I knew regardless of what happened, I was going to learn something that day, or I was going to get better. And it seems like a very simple shift between, not worrying about the results of each individual day, because in poker, like, you have downswings, you have upswings, you'll have roller coaster rides in terms of money. And it seems simple to shift it from that to just, I'm just going to go to the poker room and get better. And I know I'm going to get better. And afterwards, I'm going to study it a little bit. I'm going to talk to friends. I'm going to learn. Once I shifted that, then everything changed. Yeah. Then the negative emotions really dropped off instantly. Like, it was like this huge weight off my shoulders. And I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed going back there. I wasn't walking into the casino being like, man, I really got to fucking win today. Otherwise, I'm screwed. It's not like that anymore.
A lot of pressure, yeah.
And through that, like, it's naturally been more successful. And I've also, like, found my love for the game again. Yeah. Found my love for learning and the competition of it, and just everything that goes about it. And just, like, my goals kind of came back, like, now all of a sudden I have, like, really lofty goals again that I just kind of put on the back burner as, like, a sort of resignation. So, yeah, but that took, and it's funny because, like, I won't go back and look at and try to figure out, what worked and, what was it that really kind of, like, allowed me to reach this point, because it was just a lot of different things that I was trying to do, and that's what it's all about. It's just experimenting with different stuff, like reading a ton of books, like seeing if that works for you, meditating, does that work for you? Like, for me, it was like, does me not playing as much poker work for me? Like, is all these different trial and error type of things, until eventually emotionally I was ready to let go of a lot of different shit.
Well, it sounds like now you're truly surrendered or released on poker in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so there's this peace and harmony with it. And that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And if you consistently get better, even less, let's say you're getting 1% better every time you play, or even 0.1% better, that compounds fast. Mm-hmm. 1/100% doesn't matter, but that's going to compound. If you keep playing consistently, you play on a regular basis like a job.
Yep.
My God, it won't take long at all.
Yeah, and there's some days where I obviously still don't want to be there. Where I'm just, like, really tired and not focused as much, but I'm always trying to take something out of that. Or at least trying to get one piece of information, whether it be on a player or something that I'm doing to correct that. And I mean, I thought I was going to say, there was something that came up that I forgot what I was going to say, but basically, like, it's just, like you said, like, it's just more of a peace and acceptance. And the thing that I was going to say is I know that it's for real, because I'm still not even close to anywhere where I want to be financially. Still have a lot of debts to take care of and all this stuff, but I'm completely, like, at peace with it. And I know that now it's going to work. Like, I know that I'm going to get there, and it's going to be like...
Well, there might be a part 2 to this interview then. Because I could see you in the next year, 2 years, really blowing up financially, based on the energy that I see now, as opposed to the energy I'd see before. Mm-hmm. And it'd be interesting in another year or so, 6 months, year, 2 years, whatever, really coming back and maybe even taking a look at your lifestyle.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting, especially as you're blowing up, instead of just sitting here, maybe follow you around for a day.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, in terms of lifestyle, like that had to kind of coincide a little bit with poker too. Like I had to make sacrifices in that area too.
I think that would be, I didn't even think about that, but that's an idea. Get with some solid, fearless students, and not just sit on the couch, but let's go check out your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as glamorous as you think. You know, I'll go to like Hustler Casino or Commerce Casino.
Well, right now it's not, because you're rebuilding the business. But when we're following you out to your World Series of Poker games, and
it's funny you say that, because my friend, she's a really successful poker player, and you know, she was telling me too. She was like, you know, at this point right now, like you gotta make sacrifices, and you gotta put your head down and grind. But she said to me, she was like, you know, I went through all that, and now it's allowed me the opportunity where, you know, if there's a month where I want to play like 7 hours, she's like, I can do that. She's like, if I want to go out and just have expensive sushi, I can do that. But I went through that. I went through the process that you're going through right now, like rediscovering your game and everything. And she's like, that's the reward. You know, that's going to be one of the rewards at the end, is like, you know, for her, like she travels a bunch, you know, she's always going to different places and living. And I'm just like, do you even ever play poker? She's like, yeah. She's like, of course I do. But through her hard work and her dedication to the craft of poker, like she has plenty of money to do what she wants. And, you know, when she needs to put in, you know, 160 hours in a month, she can do it. But at the same time, she can also just like take all the time off she wants to live her life. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But I have to do this now.
And 160 hours is still a lot less than the average job.
Right. That's what people say to me too. They're just like, they're like, well, how many hours do you play a month? And I was like, I don't know, like anywhere between 120 and 160. They're just like, that's pretty fucking easy. And I was like, well, I mean, I could go into like that I have to be like pretty focused, you know, the entire time. But
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of different things to it. But yeah,
I'll tell you what, you know, this is, and a lot of people say, you know, I see this from actors and people, oh, you don't know what we go through. We're struggling to make this $1 million job at acting. Mm-hmm. And oh, you don't know what it's like standing out there in the freezing cold, memorizing lines. It's hard work. And I go, and I think, yes, you've worked hard to get where you're at and you deserve it. But go work the average 78, 60-hour-a-week job where somebody's struggling to make 40, 50, 60,000 a year, and tell me that's not hard work.
Yeah.
Especially when maybe they're doing something redundant all day long,
sure,
monotonous and tedious. You're blessed.
Yeah.
And you know, you worked hard though. You're
yeah.
not blessed. You worked hard, and that's what caused your blessing.
Yeah, and I feel that way too. But I will say that there are plenty of people who are just like, wow, like, I wish I could do that for a living.
And they can.
And that's what I say to them. I'm just like, you can. It was like when I go back home, back east for the holidays or for whatever, and I'll be talking to friends back then, and it's like, man, I wish I could move out to the West Coast. I wish I could move out to LA or a place where it's really warm. And I'm just like, what? Like, what do you mean? I don't understand this.
One of my clients, he literally, within 1 or 2 days of breaking up with his girlfriend, hopped in a car with a friend with no money and drove straight from Massachusetts to Santa Monica, got out of the car, jumped on the beach, said, we're here, and has never left.
Mm-hmm.
And now he was a broke, struggling, he started out tearing down houses for a living, just not construction, destruction, I don't know what they call that. And then he became a fitness trainer at 24 Hour Fitness. Now he owns his own fitness business. He's a strong man traveling the world. He's the world champion Moss wrestler. And he is he's one of the major strongman competitors in the world. And I mean, he's killing it.
Yeah. And, you know, back to your question of, you know, how has this impacted other areas of your life? And I'll just say that, like, having a ton of different experiences. Like, I learned snowboarding this year for the first time. You know, I'm going to be 32 years old. I'd never been on a snowboard. And this in the past like 3 months, I've been on like 3 different snowboarding trips.
Nice, good job. Snowboarding's awesome.
Yeah.
You'll have to come out with us. Maybe go to Japan with us next year.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah. Talk about, you been in powder yet? Serious powder, like up to your knees or your waist?
No.
It's fucking awesome.
No, I'm not there yet.
It's fucking awesome.
I still freak out getting off the lift. So.
Okay. Well, the nice thing about powder is when you crash, it's just when you get back up. Just stay away from the trees for now.
But yeah, so like I've done that. You know, I've gone on these like incredible camping trips, and I've gone to these festivals. You know, I was with my buddies. We were just in Long Beach. We got an Airbnb in Long Beach for this Reggae Fest weekend. That was like incredible. We already have tickets to EDC.
When's the EDC?
It's June like 16th, I want to say.
Maybe I'll have to go to EDC and get some video, get some live feeds from EDC. I think that'd be fun.
Oh God. I don't know if I want to see myself on video at EDC.
Live feed. There's Jameson. Remember that interview with Jameson? We'll put a link in the video.
Oh, there's Jameson. He's on psychedelics, and yeah, let's see. Let's talk to him about his growth.
Let's talk to him on the psychedelics. Yeah.
And so yeah, but it's just a matter of like it's really enjoying learning different things too.
Yeah.
You know, and you know I started taking like dance, like salsa lessons and stuff. You know, just on the side. We're already like our buddies were already planning. You know, we're planning for my birthday, a joint birthday with me and my friend to go skydiving in San Diego.
Nice.
So.
Tandem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have Dave take me. I don't know.
You're gonna have Dave on your back.
Yeah.
Holding on to you.
Yeah.
Humping you from behind. That's how tandem works.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just like I don't know, like so many incredible things, and I have a lot of my friends back home just being like, dude, you live like an insane life. Like I don't know if you realize this, and I didn't even like, and it took me a while to realize that too. Like I was like, oh, I'm not.
It grows so gradually that you don't realize. It was the same for me, because I realized that, one of my goals when I had an office job was to be able to work from a coffee shop. And it wasn't until a long time after I'd been working in coffee shops that I realized I'm sitting in a coffee shop working, and I haven't had a job in years, or maybe a year. Oh shit, I accomplished that goal. And now I don't work from coffee shops because they're noisy and hectic. But, we travel the world constantly. We live an amazing life. And same thing. It's just like, appreciate it while you got it. Well, you'll probably have it forever because you really built it the right way, but appreciate it,
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is appreciating it. And a lot of people kind of go through, guys especially go through life just really monotonous and just like zombies and not experiencing everything that they could experience. And it's like I'll see, some of my old friends just like on weekends, they'll be, especially back east too, like out here, it's like so much, I would say it's definitely easier to facilitate being active and everything because it's beautiful every day. But like back east, I'll see them on the weekends and they'll just be like all day on the couch, like watching TV and stuff on like a Saturday. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, I used to do that.
Yep.
And now I get anxiety just like if I'm at home on a weekend, like sitting around and I have the TV on, like I can watch TV for like 15, 20 minutes sometimes and I'll just get so much anxiety I have to turn it off and I have to go do something. And there's also times where like I can't listen to like a ton of stuff in the car. Like sometimes I'll be listening to music and I'll be like, I gotta turn this off. I just gotta sit in silence.
Oh, I do that too.
Yeah. I just gotta drive in silence. And it's like this weird thing. I'm like, I can't believe I'm at this, like people think I'm so weird just like driving around with no sound or anything to listen to. And
oh my God, how could you do that?
Yeah. So it's just
it actually feels really nice.
Yeah, it does. It's like, oh, I just need calm. Like I need my mind to be quiet. Yeah. It's okay.